they started realizing that what they have is a tool, and they need to use their tool in order to make more money. So any criticism of the music, any criticism of them is very damaging to their money, and then they panic. And if anyone starts talking shit about them, they start thinking like, oh, my money! Oh, this is going to affect my money! So what we're going to talk about today is the evils of the entertainment industry. Hollywood, what are you doing? What the hell are you doing to all those kids, Hollywood? Actually, we're talking about Ireland. Ha ha ha! I want to tell you about my experience in the Irish entertainment industry, because I think it's so funny. And people in Ireland don't get it. They don't get why it's so funny. People don't really have any perspective of how small this country is. But this is why I think you might find it funny, because most of the people listening to this aren't from Ireland, which is great. I like that, because anyone outside Ireland, perfectly understands how pathetic and pointless all of what I'm about to say is, and that is the point. Alright, so I don't have anything written down. I'm on drugs. And these other drugs. And this receptacle container for mucus. So I'll get to the first point of contention. The first thing that I did that was wrong. I was friends with someone who knew this whole network of musicians. And music was my life. I loved music. I still love music. But my number one goal was to be a musician and to travel the world. And so I knew this guy who knew this network of musicians. And they were quite famous. A couple of them were very famous in Ireland, to the point where you can meet a random person and say hey, have you heard of X, Y, and Z musicians? And most people say oh yeah, I know one or two songs from them. But me being the strange little kid that I was when I was 17, doing all sorts of weird stuff, trying to not trying to fit in with the already pre-existing culture, trying to just do something totally outside of that's a bit surreal, and pushing it in terms of what's acceptable. I made this video called Fake Celebrity Facebook Profile, which was based on my experience of creating a fake celebrity Facebook profile, specifically of Emilio Estevez, Charlie Sheen's brother. If the account got taken down, I'd just make another one. Everyone believed that I was Emilio Estevez, and I lived through his eyes, and I have countless tales of how bizarre it was to run an account where hundreds and hundreds of people thought that I was really him. I got old women sending me nudes. I would act like a total bastard as well. People would message me being hey Emilio, I love your movies, I grew up watching your movies. And I'd be send tits or GTFO. And they would. People would message me saying oh my god, I can't believe I'm friends with Emilio, can you shout out my friend Steven? And I'd be hey Steven, what's up? And he'd be oh thanks man. So I made this music video, but I was totally taking the piss out of the idea of wanting to be famous, because I thought that being famous was one of the worst things that could happen to a person. That's hell, that's a curse. So the idea of even wanting that to me was a hilarious joke that everybody is going to understand. Here's where the trouble comes in. In this music video, I decided to feature very small time Irish artists, because for some reason in my mind I thought they would be aware that they're not important people. So there's just various fake Facebook accounts in the video. They're not even a prominent part of the video. That's not what the video's about. But one of the characters that I featured as the fake profile was my friend's brother's girlfriend, who is this famous musician. Well, in fairness, she is famous, but I feel the need to undermine that fame because, everybody's fucking famous, aren't they? It's easy to get famous these days. Everybody's famous for 5 minutes. But this band, they're known all around Ireland. This musician, she's everywhere. Everybody knows her. And they're kind of, they had a year where they were famous in America. Anyway, I don't really care for all that, so I put her as the face of some character in this music video. And I know her, you know? So she saw the video and went crazy. Went absolutely fucking haywire. Berserk. I made this video just as a little homage, like, yeah, you know, these people are just in my video. I thought they'd be like, oh, cool. I thought they might not even see the video, you know? But this one fucking girl went crazy, and she wouldn't even talk to me directly. She was terrified of me. She got my friend to contact me, and he calls me like the biggest pussy ever. He calls me and he's like, oh, hey, that girl's really like freaked out that you put her in a music video. And by the way, like, I have like 0 followers. This is like the first video that I've ever done. Like, nobody is watching this. It had literally like 200 views, and she's one of them. Yeah, she's real upset that you put her in that video. And I was like, why? There's not even a character in it. It's just literally her Twitter profile picture is in it with the names changed. Her name's not in it. Her Twitter profile picture's in a video. And he's like, yeah, I mean, that's really not cool, man. You can't really just like put people's face in a video and make them say things like there's like a fake conversation between you and her in the video. I'm like, that's not a real... This is like a character with a fake name. It's just her image. And he's like, hey, listen. She was like crying down the phone to me. You know, she's like really upset. Like she can't even leave the house. That is like extreme paranoia on her end. But I felt bad because I thought, I don't know what I did wrong. I didn't see what I did was wrong. But for someone to have that reaction, it really makes you like second guess yourself and be like, well, was I wrong? So I tried messaging her, and she got back to me and was furious. And she had been like nothing but nice. I've met her like 50 times. Yeah, I knew her. And she was furious. Like this facade that she always had of being like nice, you know, just that pleasant, nice person who you meet, like the way everyone is, they're just relatively pleasant. And she's just like furious and like calling me all sorts of names, like, what the fuck were you thinking putting me in your video? And I was like, well, it was just like a fictional scenario. And she's like, you made a video about me telling you how great you are. So for the context, it was like this character that I'm playing thinks he's famous because he has a fake Facebook profile of Emilio Estevez, and her character is just like someone who messages my fake Facebook profile saying like, hey Emilio, I love your movies. I'm a character pretending to be Emilio Estevez, and she is a character pretending to be a fan of Emilio Estevez, and she like messages me saying like, you made a whole video about me being a fan of you, and that's creepy. Total delusion, man. So now here's a little something that you need to know about me. If someone challenges me, I will never ever back down. I live for that. And I also live for pettiness. I love pettiness. And I especially love to take people down a peg when they think that they are like the king of the playground. When someone has a real sense of entitlement for an extremely unnoteworthy accolade, such as being a popular Irish musician. When someone gets on their high horse about that, I'm still talking about it to this day. This was like 5 years ago. I still think about it. Because for me, this was my first insight into how people's minds get poisoned by fame, by success. Well, it is success. I don't know why I'm doing fame in inverted commas, air quotes there. I don't know why. I just feel the need to undermine it. But when someone gets their mind polluted by that shit, It's like a fucking zombie virus. And this is like my first foray into making entertainment, and I'm so naive, and I'm only like 21, and I really thought that people would be supportive, because my view is that I know how hard it is to make things as a creator. So even with people who I hate, even people who make bad art, bad content, whatever you want to call it, I can still always appreciate that it's kind of hard to like put yourself out there. I don't think it's like the hardest thing ever to put yourself out there, but it is hard to keep doing it. Maintaining a level of output and consistently being out there, that's hard. I find that hard. So I always had a respect for people who are able to consistently keep a brand going, to make a band, you know, like a music band, and to consistently put out albums, even if like one of them fails, to just keep going. Always had admiration for that, even if it's people who I dislike. But when this girl started going crazy at me, I actually realized that for her, it's not so much the sense of foregoing your ego in order to maintain consistent output. It's actually the other way around. It's having an ego that necessitates consistent output. This person doesn't have self-awareness. A lot of people don't have self-awareness, and they're not saying to themselves, like, for them it's not a constant battle to push through the self-doubt in order to put things out. It's this egotistic narcissism that they need people to constantly be paying attention to them, and that their self-image is incredibly important, that's why they consistently make things. So that was shocking to me. The fact that like just her face being put in a video makes her freak out because she doesn't have control over the way her image is being portrayed. But for me, this is one of the big things, is that I'm so aware that you can't control what the world does with your image because you put it out there. Even now with me doing this podcast, someone can make a meme of this and chop up the things I say and make me say something that I didn't say. That's a horrible crime. I'm not even going to give you the bait to do it now, but if I said I blank people, someone can mix that up and make me say something I didn't. And I'm aware that that's a possibility. Now imagine putting yourself out there publicly. And you know, she's also like political. She expresses her political opinions, such as why women are marginalized in the music industry. You know, she says shit like that. But has this idea that people aren't allowed, like, make fun of her. I thought this was maybe just I got one specific toxic individual. But as things went on, I realized that the vast, overwhelming majority of people who are out there putting their image online, they are those types of people. So I'm tempted to kind of go into the details of what happened with that girl. By the way, she's not a girl. She's like 5-6 years older than me. You know, she's in her 30s. She was in her 30s when this all happened, and I was like 21. I will say, just like on a brief kind of summary of what happened, there were these back and forth messages where she was saying like, what you did was creepy and weird and wrong, and you should be ashamed of yourself, and I want the video taken down. And if someone tells me to like take down my video, I just kept making more videos about her. And for like 2 years, I just kept making videos about her, but this time using her real name and saying shit like that she fucks dogs. She has like she eats dogs' assholes and shit.
To the blonde, sucks a fart, out of all, dog's rectum.
I was absolutely ruthless. But you know, I always think that a person's reaction is more important than the thing that was actually said. So if I say to you now, listen to this, if I say to you like, hey man, you're fucking gay. Fuck you, you're gay. That's an extremely like immature and like just childish thing for me to say. You're gay as an insult. So all you have to do in response is just like not say anything. There's nothing you can say to that will make you dignified. Just ignore it. Just ignore it. But if you come back to me and you're like twice as angry, that like you become twice as petty as I am, be like,
no, fuck you, man, you're fucking gay. You fucking have sex with men, fuck you.
You look worse. So even though your reputation was at like 0, like you have a neutral reputation, now that you've responded to this pointless, stupid thing, you actually have a negative reputation now. You actually look worse than nothing. You're worse than neutral just because you got angry at something. And that's important. Because for me, I've always been on the other side. I've been like the antagonist, the person who's saying the immature, stupid things in order to get a reaction. And so after this girl like went crazy about what I did, I got a craving for that. It was really fun. And I would find Irish musicians that I could try and like start an argument with by being petty. So I had this podcast series where I would interview Irish musicians, and sometimes I would just like call them out. If I couldn't get them on the show, I would just talk about them and just be extremely like ruthless, just like really making fun of them and just putting them on blast, sometimes in a kind of intelligent, like structured way, and sometimes just starting shit for the sake of starting shit. And I find that hilarious. But I swear to God, 100% success rate. 100% of the time, the people who I was trying to get a reaction from reacted in a very negative way that made them look terrible. Because all they have to do is ignore it. And actually, you know what? There were some people who laughed with the joke, who got it and went along with it. But those people, I wouldn't have been like trying to punk in the first place. I assumed that they would get it. Some people did get it, but man, the people who didn't really didn't. And here's the kind of lesson that I want to impart from this. I think that's very funny, but I have to restrict myself from doing that, because the amount of bridges that I burned and the amount of opportunities that weren't available to me because I did that were disastrous. Now, I don't really care, because when I was doing all that stuff, I had nothing to lose. I was doing this masked character PDF pocket hole, and I think subconsciously the reason I was doing that is because I wanted to be able to just burn something to the ground when I was done with it. I wanted to wear a mask because I knew that I had to make music videos and I had to make art, but I wasn't skilled enough for it to be like very good. So I was aware that what I was gonna make wasn't going to be great. So at least if I was wearing a mask and had a fake pseudonym and whatever, I could just get rid of it all and then start from the start again with my real face, which is what I did. But if I hadn't done that, if before, when I was like fucking with people, I was doing it like with my real face, it doesn't even matter what my name is. If I did it with my real face, that's it. I'm done. If I ever wanted to like earnestly start a career in Ireland, not gonna happen. Impossible. You know why? Because the very first person who I fucked with knows everybody. And I don't know anybody. That girl, the reason why I think about that specifically is because that was such a domino that kept coming up again and again. So for example, when that happened, I had this Instagram page with 100 followers, you know, something like that. And when I put out that fake celebrity music video, there was a post that I made about the video that was flooded with comments from genuine Irish celebrities. Like people who I see in ads on one of the live streams I was doing. Just before I started the live stream, I was like clicking into a YouTube video, and one of the people who was like roasting me in my Instagram comments was on an ad selling fucking washing up liquid, selling dishwasher tablets. She's a boxer. She's an Irish national boxer or something like that. Very famous. I see her face on billboards all over the place. My grandmother loves her, thinks she's the best. And that woman, that boxer, is friends with the musician. And she commented on my Instagram post, "This guy's a freak who puts people in his videos without their permission." She said that to me. Nobody. I'm nobody. But I can't stress how that fucks up everything for me. Because she knows who I am. And she knows everybody. So all she has to do, like, let's say for example, I'm trying in earnest to like make a genuine career in Ireland now. If I ever cross her path, or if I ever cross paths with someone who she knows, which is like everybody, they're just gonna, they're gonna not talk to me. They're just gonna put up their hand and say, "Oh no. Oh no, I know who you are. Sorry, I can't talk to you. You know, you're bad news. If I talk to you, then that girl is gonna like not talk to me, and then I'm gonna be blacklisted." And the reason why I think this is funny is because it's such a small scale. Like, at the end of the day, I really don't give a fuck if I'm blacklisted in Ireland. Well, it's not that I don't give a fuck, it's that it was never my intention to make that my life anyway. But it's kind of like being banned from a club that you didn't even want to get into. It still feels bad. Not because you don't get what you want, but because it's unavoidable, the reality of how people have power that you don't have, and they can use it in whatever way they want. And they will want to use it in abusive ways, just simply because they don't like you. I didn't commit a crime. I didn't do anything illegal. I took one person's Twitter profile picture and put it in a video, and that was the domino effect that made me blacklisted. And I'm not exaggerating here. Like, the reason why I'm not exaggerating and that it sounds like such a, you know, kind of hyperbolic thing to say is because that is actually true, but it's just so small scale that like it doesn't even fucking matter. It's incredibly easy to get blacklisted in Ireland. You could do it in a day if you wanted. But let me tell you a second story that has a different taste to it, has a different flavour. So, I mentioned that girl was my friend's brother's girlfriend. My friend's brother, I've talked about him like too many times. He's this rapper. And his whole thing, you know the way rappers are supposed to be like tough and manly? His whole thing is that he's not tough and manly. That's his like selling point, is that rappers don't have to be like that. But it comes from a place of insecurity that Like, he doesn't have a choice. It's not like he can choose to be tough and manly if he wants to. He just has to deal with the cards that he's given, and he's pretending that it's an intentional choice to be soft. So this guy, another guy who like very famous in Ireland, if he put out one tweet with my name in it and saying like, that guy's bad news, nobody should talk to him. If he did one tweet like that, I'd be fucked. If I wanted to make a career, I'd be fucked. And actually, I mention a tweet specifically as a way of getting cancelled, because I think it's easy to believe that only major Hollywood celebrities get cancelled from a tweet. And to an extent that is true, but when you rely on other people and the other people stop helping you because of a tweet, it's out of your control. You can keep making what you're making if you're an independent YouTuber or whatever and you've no employees, but if you are a rapper with a record label and the record label drops you, like, you're nobody, you're nothing. And specifically, I will say, because it pertains to this, as much as I truly hate going on about these people that I'm talking about, it is relevant and there is something to be learned from it for smaller scale artists and creatives. There's this guy I worked with called Gavin, and he's a rapper, and he's dumb as bricks. He is a stupid guy. He's quite low IQ, but his heart's in the right place and he means well, and for the brain that he's got, he actually makes decent stuff. I did a video with him, and I have every reason to hate that guy because he stiffed me out of some money. And actually, you know what, that's the only thing that he did wrong, but I let him away with it because he went to prison. So that was why he couldn't give me my money. Anyway, long story short, I had no reason to defend that guy because he wronged me. But defending him is what I did because he was with this psycho bitch who posted photos of herself to Instagram with bruised, what do you call these things, under the eyes. Her under the eyes were bruised, and she looked like she'd been thrown down a flight of stairs. So she made an Instagram post saying that she'd been thrown down a flight of stairs by her boyfriend Gavin, the rapper. Not his stage name, I don't want to reveal too much. But in this small community, he's not from Dublin, he's from the fucking middle of nowhere. In this small community where he lived, everyone knew. Everyone found out that he threw his girlfriend down a flight of stairs, and she had the photos to prove it. And he was doing a collaboration with my hip-hopping enemy, my public enemy number one, the guy who I'm always talking about, the rapper. They were doing a collaboration when this came out. And within a day of that girl posting photos of her bruised face, my enemy, the rapper, went on Twitter and said, like, I no longer associate with that guy. I don't want anything to do with him. I condemn the actions that he did. I support women. I'm against violence against women. You know, he pulled out all the stops. One tweet. The guy was done. He was done. Because now people who didn't know him only know him because of that. Whereas they would have otherwise known him for doing this collaboration with a much bigger artist that would have been the best thing for him. He would have got a lot of new fans because of that. The opposite happened. His current fans hate him, and now his numbers are down. So here's the plot twist. Tell me if you saw this one coming. He didn't actually do it. And I know that on two levels. On one level, I met the guy, I worked with the guy. He's an idiot, but he's not an aggressive person. There was nothing about that guy that would... He was soft, you know? Like, he was a weak kind of guy. He'd get pushed around, if anything. The second reason I know he didn't do it is because he went to court to prove his innocence. And beyond reasonable doubt, he was proved innocent. And I also met his girlfriend, and she is a psycho. And yeah, it was pretty quickly cleared up that she was just trying to ruin him because he had paid for OnlyFans. He had an OnlyFans account. He was just paying for porn. She got real twisted up about it. She threw herself down a flight of stairs, went on Instagram, said that he did it. His whole career's gone. His record label dropped him. The collaborator tweeted out a bad thing about him. And the reason I say that is because it's an actual thing that you can get cancelled. It's a kind of a stupid term for it that we use, saying getting cancelled, but it just takes one person with power to say something about you, and you can't do anything about it. How's that for you? Nice story? That's how easy it is. And this isn't dissimilar to what happens in America either. It's just the fact that this is so small scale that it's like what do you call it? Like a microcosm. If you can, the world is big, right? But you can do sample studies with just a small percentage of a community, and it still speaks to the same effect that happens on a global scale, but only with a 1,000 person survey. I don't know if I've explained that very well, but what I'm trying to say is, although this may be small, it is the exact same thing that happens in Hollywood, for example. It's just the same thing but blown up to 1,000 times the size. So anyway, this rapper guy is he knows that musician very well, and when I was in my phase of just constantly putting her on blast, just every week I was making fun of her, just in a passive way, just offhand remarks saying how much of a skank she is. He sent me a message once, and I swear to God, it was the most shocking thing I think someone's ever said to me. Not because of the content necessarily, but because of the context. I'm completely taking the piss lambasting this woman who, in my eyes, is the villain, the one who's abusing their power. I'm David and she's Goliath, and I'm just trying to chip away at her little toenails down here. This tiny little guy just trying to fucking smack the beast in the toe. And this rapper guy sends me a message, and he says, "You're such a fucking loser, man. It's unbelievable." And I think I just said something like ha 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 or something like that, because I know that guy for 11 years. I know that guy so well. I'm not gonna get into the details of how fucking involved in his life that I was. This is like a childhood friend or so, I thought. "You're such a fucking loser, man. It's unbelievable." And I was just like, ha, damn. I can't even remember. It was a real innocuous response. He says something kind of aggressive, and I said to him, "Whoa, dem's fighting words." Still, I'm not taking it seriously. And he completely took that as a physical threat. And he was like, "You know where the gaff is. You know where the house is. Pull up any time you like, and we'll have a fight." And I told him "Oh yeah, that'd be hilarious. Me and you fighting in your garden." And I didn't even think about it that much. But then just as the months go by and as I get older, and I pretty much just fizzled out that project that I was working on, because I just driven it into the ground. It was going up in flames. Everyone hated me. I tried releasing a song once, and the record label, it was I was a guest. I was a guest on someone's song, and the record label wouldn't put out that song because I was a guest. They refused to put out the entire track. And I was like, fuck this. But then I just keep thinking about the fact that this guy was so mad that he told me he wanted to fight me. A grown man He's older than me as well. Like, he's closer to 30 than he is to 20. I find that sickening. He's got a sick mind. That's sickening though, isn't it? The idea that someone would be so mad about a podcast, about some guy in a podcast just like talking shit, not even being serious about it, like it's very obvious that I'm just joking. Being so mad that he wants to physically fight. And not in a boxing match, not like influencer boxing. Like, I want to have a street brawl with you. If I see you, I'm going to hurt you. I'm going to physically hurt you. Oh man, that's the most pathetic thing I've ever heard. But the fact that, I have to emphasize, it's the fact that he has so much more influence and power than I have, you know? I'm a man of integrity, believe it or not. I like to fuck with people and I like to have arguments and stuff like that. But you have to be aware that if you're in a position of power over somebody, it's not cool and righteous of you to pick on a smaller guy. So think of it in a physical sense. If you're 6'2" and there's some 5'1" guy who's constantly in your ear just like bickering, like saying shit to you, it's not a noble thing for you to pummel that guy into the ground. Even if he's being a totally annoying prick, even if that little imp is completely in the wrong and being a little fucking rat, if you smash that guy being 6'2", no one's gonna take your side in that. You're not admirable. You are always going to win that fight. So my whole thing was, I'm this like micro creator in Ireland, and I'm trying to battle these like genuinely famous people, because I always assume that like, as much as I might be antagonizing them, there's no way that they'll risk their entire reputation by saying something like that to me. Because imagine this, all I have to do is screenshot those messages that those people are sending. I don't even have to do a lot of work to put that online and just say like, look what this person said to me. Who's a famous person? Justin Roiland. If Justin Roiland sent me messages saying like,
Fuck you, you little prick. When I see you, I'm gonna beat your ass.
all I have to do is post them with no context and people be like, what the fuck? He's an asshole. I'm not gonna watch his stuff anymore. And I always assumed that people in power would be hyper cognizant of this fact, that when you are that famous, you have to be very careful about what you say, because if you have one negative thing, if you have one thing that could be screenshotted, it's over for you. So choose your battles wisely. I know it sounds so like petty and insignificant and small, but that fucking blew my mind. The idea that no, people don't have any concept of public perception. They have no concept that what they say can have consequences. And they are so primitively drawn to getting the thing that they want, to brute forcing their control over the world. Like they want people to stop talking. Stop fucking talking! They just want right now for it to stop, and they just want to crush whatever it is that's bothering them. And actually, there are so many details about this that I either forgot or weren't worth mentioning or were too extraneous and long to really get into. But one important thing that I just remembered is that this dumb whore is a daddy's girl. Her father is one of the top 1% richest people in Ireland. And the reason I mention this, why it's relevant here, they have the power of money and they have the power of influence. which I can only imagine makes someone feel absolutely unstoppable. If you also think about the fact that so much of the punitive elements of our society, so many punishments are monetary. You can kind of commit most crimes because you can just pay to get out of jail. You can just pay the fine, you know what I mean? That little whore, that little slut. She told her family about what I had said about her online, and her family are also like influential, famous people. But her dad, the big Mr. Moneybags, I don't know the guy. All I know is that like he's famous for being so rich. I don't know what the party was, but essentially a friend of mine was at a party with this little bitch's father. The father approached my friend. Was like, "Oh, you're a friend of that PDF pocket hole guy." Bearing in mind, I'm wearing a mask and you know, I have a pseudonym, so this guy doesn't know my real name or anything. He doesn't know what I look like. "You're a friend of that guy," and my friend's like, yeah. He's like, "Oh, and so whereabouts is he living? Is he from Dublin?" And my friend's like, "Yeah, he's from Dublin." "And whereabouts in Dublin?" And he's asking these kind of questions. He's asking my friend where I live. He wants to know exactly where I live and what my story is, what's my job. He wants to know anything he can get about me. I would love to know what he was going to do with that information. All I know is that this man with lots of money and lots of power is trying to find out my personal info. And look, all of this is based around my idea that I want to stand up for the little guy, and I want the people who are in power to not feel that they can take advantage of people. And I naively thought that I could achieve this, that I could win with my words. But when I found out that this guy was trying to find out where I live, I realized that people are so much more fucked up than I ever thought they were. I knew people were like weird, and I knew people did bad things. This guy, what was he willing to lose? He's clearly willing to lose his reputation, because even the fact that you'd be known to be prying into details about people like that, that's embarrassing. That's not something you would want people to know. Like, you're risking your reputation by asking sinister questions like that. People are so fucked up. And you gotta be more careful with your words than I was. I didn't know that. I didn't know how true that was, but there you go. That's bizarre to me, man. I don't know if people really grasp how strange that is. What I learned was most people who are at the top don't have respect for the thing that's being made. They are much more concerned with being admired and having power than they are facilitating any sort of community or progressing any sort of art form. And I used to think it was the exact opposite. I used to think that everyone who made stuff completely gets it. I thought that people who make stuff were on the same wavelength, you know? And I hate to be real black-pilled about this, but in my experience, there's been like less than 5 people who I've made who've actually... Sorry, there's been less than 5 people who I've met who actually fit into the category of like truly passionate people. This is the way I see it. You pick up a guitar because you want to make music. You want to hear the music that you like. And the most direct way of doing that is to just make it yourself. And then you form a band because you hear these songs in your head and you want to hear like bass and drums. You want to play it for people live. It needs to be finished. And then when you form the band, then you start doing gigs, and then people are getting familiar with you. People know your band, people expect things of you, people like your music. Your music means something to those people. and then you start getting paid for doing gigs, and then you get paid for your Spotify streams. You make $5. And for me, that whole journey is represented by feeling extremely gracious for the opportunity to do that. And the money will never recuperate what you've lost in time. There's no amount of money. Well, okay, maybe I could make a couple million, but realistically, there's not really any amount of money that can pay back the hundreds and thousands of hours that I've spent playing guitar, writing songs, forming a band. I'm just using the music analogy because that's just what I know. For a YouTube channel, like, no amount of money could really, like, recuperate the fucking time I've spent editing, you know, all that kind of stuff. So it's not about the money. Making minimum wage doing it is fine, because at least you can have enough money just to pay for food and continue to make the thing that you love making. But what I realized was that's not the default way of thinking, and that most people I've met who are higher up on the ladder, they don't see it that way. They see it more like they got into something because they had a passion, because they like music, whatever. They tried it and then they just so happened to be good at it. And then as soon as they got paid, they started realizing that what they have is a tool, and they need to use their tool in order to make more money. And also, the music that they make represents them as a person. So any criticism of the music, any criticism of them, is very damaging to their money. And then they panic. And if anyone starts talking shit about them, they start thinking like, oh fuck my money! Oh, this is going to affect my money! And this is what I've just found in my experience so many people to do, is that they have no principles. And they really need people to like them. And ironically, the more that they need people to like them, the more defensive and hostile they get to anyone who tries to take things away from them. The way I see it is, if anyone is trying to take something away from me, that is also an opportunity for you to propel yourself. You can come out better. Like earlier I was saying, you may start at a neutral level of reputation, and how you react to something can actually put you in a negative spot. People can start to see you negatively from how you reacted to something. But also, if you're at a neutral position and someone attacks you, you can actually elevate your reputation by responding to it in a good way. Your reaction to things is sometimes more important than what you do out of thin air. Your reaction to things can be more important than the things that you just conjure up from nothing. And having the opportunity to react to things is a good thing. So for the small dude, for example, it starts off as just a little bit of fun, making some videos, but then I realized, oh, I could actually make something of this. People actually like this. So then you start building a brand, people start to know you, you start taking it seriously, and then eventually you start making money from it. And if you're doing things right, people are going to attack you, people are going to not like you, people are going to want to take you down, which is a great opportunity to prove that you are a principled person, to prove who you really are. It's all well and good to write your songs and say like, I'm such a nice person, I love everybody. Yeah. You can say that as much as you like, but when actual push comes to shove, when you're thrust into the public arena, how do you really act? And I want people to see how I really am. I want to be put in positions where my natural reaction is unavoidable. I'm going to have to be honest in an interview for example, or in a live stream, you can't edit things out. Things are just gonna be, they're gonna be committed to tape, and you're just gonna have to deal with what the consequences are. People are gonna see it, people are gonna remember it. And I like that idea, because I want people to know that, like, I am who I say I am. I have no fear of being attacked, because I have nothing to hide. I love seeing things online, little drama, beefs, squabbles that people do have. But until recently, until being in the situation myself, I didn't actually understand how real it is if you are the one who's put into a situation. So I'll often see things online where someone's making their content and then someone calls them out, and then they have this response, and then there's this whole debacle of like who's right and who's wrong, and this person's fallen off, and this person looks better and this person looks worse. And I always just thought it was funny, because it's like, I mean, who really fucking cares? And I always find it so strange how people overreact and they do apology videos and shit. That's the funniest thing of all, like doing apology videos. Why don't you just like log off for like fucking 5 days and come back and no one will care anymore? That's what I thought. But now that I'm in somewhat of that stream, now that I understand what's at stake, I do understand why people make such foolish decisions, and why people commit things to tape that are going to be out there forever, that ought not to be out there forever. You shouldn't really follow your impulses so much, because you won't understand why in the moment that your impulse was wrong. It might take years, and I think a lot of times it would be smarter to play the safe option. When you're thinking like something might not be the right thing to do, it's most times better to not do that. Once you trash somebody, you can't take it back. Even if you come out and say, oh, I was wrong, I shouldn't have done that. It doesn't matter. And that might not always be the wrong thing to do. I'm not saying that's always wrong. But it's a very avoidable thing. It's very avoidable. You could not say that. You know that thing you want to say because you're angry? You could just not say it. And you probably won't be worse off. But in my experience, most times when you do say it, when you do say that thing to antagonize somebody, to get at somebody, it doesn't stand the test of time, but it stays around forever. So for example, when I initially got in that fucking argument with that stupid bitch who was angry at me for putting her in my video, at the time I was like, well, of course I'm gonna fight this. This person has more power than me, and they're challenging me, and they're telling me to take my video down. Of course I'm gonna double down, and I'm gonna like keep making videos about her, and I'm gonna keep slandering her. I really believe that that's the right thing to do, but at the same time, years have passed, and that is nothing. That is just... nothing came of that. She wasn't damaged in any... well, she was damaged emotionally. I kind of fucked her up a little bit, I think. Hopefully. But, like, you know, she didn't lose money. She didn't lose influence. She didn't lose power. Nothing was achieved by that. But what did happen was that I burnt, like, so many bridges. And I'm banned from a certain community. And not that that really, like, matters now. But it'd probably be better if I didn't do that. Because it's a very bad thing. It follows you. And you don't know the ways in which it'll come back to haunt you. Just making sure the microphone's still on, so you just make sure you can hear me. So it's much more beneficial to not have people dislike you. And that doesn't mean that you shouldn't stand up for what you believe to be right. That doesn't mean that when you see something wrong, that you shouldn't speak up about it. I believe in that very much. But you have to be so aware of when you're truly severing a tie. You have to be really aware that you're going to say this thing, and for the rest of time, for the rest of your life, that person will hate you. And you might think in a moment like, yeah, I don't go fuck if that guy hates me. Fuck him. But listen, that will carry around with you. And the more that you build a backlog of people who hate you, the worse it gets. So like one insignificant guy hating you, alright, whatever. That might not be the worst thing ever. But then five people who hate your guts, if they get together, that's a problem. That's a problem. And if at least one of those 5 people who hate your guts has more power and influence than you, that's a real problem. And that's what I experienced, thankfully, in a totally unimportant arena. But I am very conscious of that now. And I make mistakes. You know, one thing that I shouldn't have done is, I only did this like 2 weeks ago. I kept saying I hate Undertime Slopper, this TikTok account. And I did it because I do, for some reason, love having an enemy. I love having an enemy. I love someone who I can just always say like, yeah, fuck that person. Because there is something in me that feels like I still want to fight the enemy. Because there's so many enemies out there. But I shouldn't have done that. That's stupid. Undertime Slopper is like way more popular than me. People like Undertime Slopper. And I actually don't even have any problem with Undertime Slopper. I was only saying it just because I thought it'd be funny. But it wasn't even that funny. And you know what? The damage that could potentially do to me is so much worse than how funny it is. Because it's not that funny. It's not funny at all, really. But I could have fans who love Undertime Slopper more than me. And they might stop watching me because they think I actually hate Undertime Slopper. Or, you know, even worse, Undertime Slopper could love my channel and he could want to, I don't know, do a collaboration or some shit. Something that would expose me to like a wider audience. I mean, like if I did a collaboration with Undertime Slopper and he properly credited me and whatever, he has like 500,000 subscribers or whatever, something like that. If he just shouted me out, I would get probably double my audience in a day. So why would I burn that? Why would I just sever that opportunity before it even had the chance? And I'm not saying that like I want to know him or anything like that, but I don't even hate him, so why would I do that? That's so stupid. That's so stupid. And I don't know if he's seen me say that I hate him, but he could very well talk to people like we know, I know at least one person that me and Undertime Slopper know in person, and he could easily just say that to that guy, oh yeah, no, don't mess with the small dude, he's a toxic individual. And there we go, that's how it happens. And then the virus can just spread from there. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, you don't want to have people hating you. You'll never get anywhere. Anyway, I'm gonna end this here because my throat's fucking killing me, man. I shouldn't have done this. This was foolish. I should have just continued taking a break. Appreciate you listening. I hope this was a nice little addition to your day. I'll see you soon. All right.